And we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And today on the line, all the way from Hungary, I have Estela Kun. And Estela, you're the founder of FreedomXFest, which is the first educational outdoor festival aimed at inspiring leaders in the location-independent movement to learn from each other and collaborate. So we're definitely going to talk about that. And you're also the author of a book called Freedom by Design, Living Life on Your Own Terms. So we'll get into that. But welcome. Let's start with the first question. What does your virtual office look like?
Thank you, Lisette, for having me on. And hi, everyone. So my virtual office, that's a great question. I do have a really distinct, different locations that I'm working from. We are based in Bali, spending a few months there of the year, but I do travel a lot. So my virtual offices keep changing. Right now, I'm in the family holiday house of my family for a few weeks. Just even last month, we were working from Africa. So it does change around a lot. And to be honest, I used to use co-working spaces a lot more. But now that I move around a lot, I actually do maybe 2 or 3 days maximum in an office, and then I do a lot more outside. I really like being in nature, so that's kind of my new discovery.
And it's summer too, so it's more motivating to be outside.
Yeah, so I have to say that I'm always choosing summer, so I'm not sticking around for too long when it's cold.
All right. Yeah, that's the best part. We can go to, like, we can have summer all year round if we really want to in the location independent movement.
Exactly.
So let's start with talking about the FreedomXFest, and then we're going to talk about what is your story in getting there? So you're organizing, it's the FreedomXFest, and like I said before, it's an outdoor festival for people in the location independent movement to learn from each other. How did you start this and why?
Yeah, so it's been, this is the second year that we are putting up FreedomXFest. Last year we had it in Budapest with about 250 people for 2 days, 35 different talks and workshops. And it was a really great 2 days that we came together in this really beautiful venue in the city. But it was still more like a conference, like an interactive conference with workshops. And what we really wanted to create is a festival. So this year is the first year that we're actually taking everything outside, outdoor, with a partner from Co-Vocations, Stuart Jones. And we took over, basically we are renting a remote village up in the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. The village has about 12 different country houses and small like amphitheater and small, outdoor areas and swimming pools. And then also we are building up a few stages. And the idea is that to create an educational festival where we can come together, people can come and learn about the different work styles and practices, but also a ground for the leaders of the movement, different companies and people who are doing great work within location independent movement, digital nomads, or remote companies, even co-working spaces, to come together and to discuss that, what is the future look like? What are the different things that what we can be adding to each other's businesses and how we can be cultivating these new practices that it becomes something more largely known, like more towards mainstream.
Now you have the option of doing this kind of thing online. Why do it in person?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we did start it online. The first project that I was running was called Freedom Summit about 18 months ago. And that was a virtual conference where we interviewed people, and it was great. But I feel that even though we can bridge, time and distance online, and we can come together and create great value and have discussions, it's very different than when we meet in person. And having that aspect of not just going to a conference or to an event, but actually spending time with the participants and the speakers for 6 days. I think that that's something like that doesn't really exist. Many of us go to conferences, you go to a talk, you go to a workshop, you get some value out of it, but then the speaker's gone. Like sometimes you have an hour or two to have a networking event, hang around a little bit more around to get together with each other. But with the festival setting, we really want to break down the barriers and kind of like, that the thing between a speaker, between a participant, between a panel talk, and open up the ground that we can actually enjoy 6 weeks together and have not just intellectual conversations, but have also, kayaking, have a volleyball, have a cinema night, have music, and just find different ways to interact and connect. And I think that the festival is a really great setting that can achieve that. And we wanted to bring that aspect of a festival as well as the aspect of the educational aspect of conferences and kind of merge them together. And then let's see how it's gonna roll. I think it's a really great idea that many of us love. And then we're gonna see that how the first outdoor experience goes this year.
Indeed. I mean, I have to say, in person versus virtual is different. And neither is better or worse. They're just different and they have different things that you have to do. And I love the idea of having experiences together because it's so powerful. So this festival setting, also fun experiences together, not just these dry conferences where we're listening to PowerPoint presentations and then you go and network and then you do the next 45-minute talk, but like really hanging out together and talking. So yeah, I really applaud what you're doing. I think it's a great idea.
Exactly. That's what you were saying about experiences and about just opening up the space. And I think that another aspect of the festival being outside in nature, that's going to be something really different. And obviously we are really curious about, because setting up an event in a space, it's a bit easier. Having the outside aspect and the logistic of being outside in nature, it's a bit different. But I think that that's going to give like another twist that it's really, really interesting that in nature and when we are outdoors, then we become a bit, different as human beings. We become more, close to each other, more personal. And I'm really interested at what we can make happen in that space.
I'm really interested too. I'll be watching. I can't attend. Sadly, I can't attend. I would love to be there, but I will be watching what happens. That's for sure. So what about you? You've been traveling a lot and breaking the norms. I read in your bio quite a lot. How did you come into this location independent movement? Yeah. What's your story? How did you get here?
All right. So I try to tell it in a nutshell, not to go for too long. Yeah, I was born and raised in Budapest, Hungary. And age of 18, that's when I left about 15 years ago. And I studied in the US, I studied in London, in France. I took but about like 2008, I think that was the first year that when I went on a travel and I started to learn about online businesses. And then since then, it's really been a journey. So since then, I became a freelancer in 2010, and I was, working with American clients from Ibiza and Portugal, and just being a digital nomad for many years. And then I started to experiment with more being location-based, in a sense that, we have a home now in Bali. I do come back to Europe every summertime. But then in between, I just love traveling. And traveling is something that, keeps me motivated, inspired. I'm meeting new people, new cultures. I'm getting constantly inspiration and creativity. So it's just something that I love doing. And also I love business, and I love that what we can be creating in business, and also the impact that what we can be potentially making in different parts of the world. So I guess that merging all these different interests of mine, that's what became, I'm just really love this location dependent lifestyle, because I feel that the ability to have freedom and to be designing our life in a new way, that's something that's super exciting and grant us a lot of new opportunities.
Do people think what you're doing is strange? I mean, I know it's getting more popular, but it wasn't popular, especially not back in, before 2008 and in these times. So have you gotten kickback, or people saying like, what are you doing? Or your parents even? Were your parents like, what are you doing? Or
all the time. Yeah, that's something that I guess I just learned to accept that. I have to say that all the way until 2014, I felt like a total stranger, and I even questioned it to myself that if I'm crazy or not, because the lifestyle that I created and the way that how I wanted and I was living, it was just so few people. I didn't really know anyone like officially like living this lifestyle. And I think I remember in 2014, that's when I first read about digital nomads. And that was a huge revelation for me. I was like, oh my goodness, there are other people out there actually living this lifestyle. And that's when I went to Thailand, to Chiang Mai, started to connecting with more, projects and people and have discussions. And, and in the last 4 years, really, the amount of changes that has happened in the movement and the amount of, media that's speaking about different styles of working, the different events and conferences that popped up, I think it's just really starting to revolutionize the way that how it is accepted. So now I'm not really feeling a stranger anymore, but I still need to explain myself for sure.
Yeah, I ask at conferences often when I'm speaking, like, how many people have heard of digital nomads? And I'd say still 30% raise their hands. So that's 70% that haven't heard of it at all. So I feel like, oh, I'm sorry, now that you know about it, you can never go back. Once you know what it can be, it's really hard to ever go back. Which brings me to a question. Could you ever have an office lifestyle where you're going to a job 9 to 5 every day? Is that something you could ever do or go back to?
Well, if I'm totally honest, I never really lived that lifestyle. I had about 3 months that I was going to an office in Lima in Peru. And after that 3 months, I decided that I'm going to become a full-time freelancer. So I don't really have like a long, many years of background in that. I have to say that I do enjoy, for example, co-working spaces. So I do enjoy, the fact that we can come together and work together. But I can't really do the same thing every day. So even if I'm working from home, then I would work one day from home, and the next day I would be working from a cafe. The third day I would be in an office. And it's just because I'm used to variety, and I think that I can't, like, you can't really go back. You can never go back. You can never step in the same river twice, right? So things are changing, we are changing. And once you experience like a degree of freedom, then it just becomes like so, normal. And like, for example, today, or in the next 2 days, we have quite a few people from the team who's going to be coming to the lake house to be spending a few days together to co-work. And you have people coming from Vienna, from Budapest. And, it was a really like sudden decision. We actually have to get things done. Who's available to come over? And that's something that if you have, fixed job, you just can't do. You can't sit in a car and drive, across the country in order to meet with your team members or to be participating in a retreat or things like that. And that I love. I have to say that I just love that level of freedom where we can decide almost on 1 or 2 weeks in advance that what we're going to be doing or where we're going to be meeting. And yeah, I don't think I would be able to to exchange that for a 9 to 5 or for any office space that I have to be always there.
It probably would take a lot of money, like a lot of money, or something, some perk that would be hard to refuse.
Well, I would try it as a test. Like if someone would offer that to me to do for a week or as an experiment, like I would be really happy to. But I think that it's more, I really like experimenting with things, that's for sure.
So what are the biggest challenges? I mean, you've gone around the world now and you've seen other digital nomads and you've seen probably a lot of people doing it well and a lot of people not doing it well. What are the challenges that people run into in living this kind of lifestyle?
There is a lot of different things that come up. I think maybe a few of the most important ones is that once we have a degree of freedom, what do we do with it? So how to actually manage our time and energy, how to be managing the way that how we are living on a day-to-day basis, that creates a lot of challenges for people. Because when we are in an office, then you have you have a schedule. Everything is set, so you don't have to think about it. And once you have so much freedom and you can be doing anything your day, then many people struggle just sitting on Mondays and so which project I'm starting now? Like, how do I keep myself motivated to stay on track, for example? Or another one can be the lack of community, because people often, and many of the people actually traveling, digital nomads, feel really lonely, and you become a solo entrepreneur. You start, you venture in your business, but then you go to a new country and you don't know anyone. So how to integrate back with different communities, how to get that support network, that support group, how do you get a mentorship, how do you get a partner, how to, even relationships can be a really, challenging task. How do you find life partner who want to be traveling with you if you're a digital nomad, for example? So there's a lot of new questions that's coming up. One of the most recent one that I'm actually, let's say, the most challenged by, and I'm kind of working through, is that word conditioning around the work hard model. So I'm really used to working hard. I'm used to working 8-10 hours a day, and I always have more things and more tasks, and I'm just really driven. So to allow myself to be working only 4 hours a day and to take some time out and enjoy, that's challenging. And it's silly to say, because everyone would say that, oh, how great if I can just work half day and take the rest of the day off. But actually, when we are running our own projects and businesses, and I'm so used to just working, it's really difficult to just sign off and to actually get out of the stress mode, and to be able to just be okay if I'm not completing another 10 tasks that day. So yeah, that's something that I'm currently, for example, working a lot on a personal level. And especially like coming up to the festival, like we have tons of things to do. I could be busy every day, all the time. But is it really what I want to be doing? Like if we are putting up the festival to have fun and create a freedom lifestyle and talk about this and create it, then do I really want to be stressing myself over it? Not. So, right. And that kind of contradiction, it's challenging.
Yeah, I know, a lot of managers really are afraid that if they let people have the freedom to work from wherever they want, that they're not going to do the work. But in my interviews, and of course, it's a very biased set of people. I always, I'm not taking people who only work in offices, but the majority of people, the problems that they run into is that they're working too hard and not too little, and that they're burning themselves out. So burnout is the problem, not laziness. Yeah, people don't want the freedom so that they can sit on the couch more. People want the freedom so that they can be more productive and have a better work-life balance.
Exactly.
So what are some of the rules you've put in place for yourself
around this work hard?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Actually, as I said, I really love experimenting. So one of the things that I was kind of like trying out on myself is that what if, for example, one thing for me was stress. Like I get so stressed in an environment when it's a short deadline, there's a campaign running, a lot of things to do, a big team, you just get stressed. And I realized that actually being stressed just creates more of it. So one of the things I started to do is that anytime I get stressed on the computer or with anything, I close it. Like obviously not middle of the meeting, like usually I don't get stressed on a meeting, but when you get, for example, you have a problem, you're trying to solve it and it doesn't work, or you're caught up in a conversation and it doesn't go anywhere and you just get stressed, then I close my computer and I get up 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go for a jog, move around a little bit, make a smoothie, do something different, and then come back with a new mindset. And what is really interesting that a lot of things, and especially in campaigns, when you have a lot of things that can go wrong or small technical bugs can happen and those kind of things, after I come back, things get solved. And actually, just because when I'm stressed, I'm putting pressure on others as well, other team members freaking out, and everything just goes wrong. But when I step away from it and say that it's okay, we're going to solve it, and actually breathe and look for the solution, then things get solved much more easily. And when I started to notice that, I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like if I can actually, create better results by, interrupting my flow when I'm not in the right mind frame, what else can happen? So another thing that I was experimenting with was around the amount of time I sit with the computer. Like I realized that I'm spending so much time answering emails, answering chats, and sometimes it's 2-3 hours and I'm still on Slack. and nothing really happened. Like if I would just ask what has happened in the last hours, other than me answering people and just getting in, conversations, like I didn't really achieve anything. So what's the point of it? Of actually being in that space. So for example, I'm putting a timer on how much time I spend on Slack. I go in for half an hour, but then I'm really I'm really focused on what are the objectives, what are the things I'd like to move forward, what are the things for the day. I do that and then I close it. And I do the same with the emails. So I don't have emails and everything all the time open and just see things pouring in, because when I was operating in that way, I was always putting out fires. I was always responding what other people needed instead of actually getting on with what I needed to do. So I'm starting to segment different parts of the day when I'm only, for example, opening the things that is important to me, and I'm only dealing with those. Then I have a part when I open up a Slack, I open up emails, I answer everyone, and then I close it. And I'm starting to, create those spaces that enable me to be productive and actually to measure that productivity, what I achieved in that 2 hours, because I don't want to spend too much time on the computer. I want to be on the computer or be, in that environment to get things done. But then I want to be able to step away from it and then coming to the point that I started with, trying to, get to a place that I can actually give permission to myself to have more time doing other things I like. And maybe going to the beach or going for a run or doing some other things, and I can actually feel good about it. I've achieved, I've done what I wanted for the day, and now it's time for myself.
That is really good advice. And in fact, I'm struggling with the same thing myself. I mean, if I have Slack open, I'm part of like 6 or 7 different Slack groups, of course, and I could sit there and watch messages come in all day long. I mean, you could just watch, they'll just come in all day long. And I finally got a coach to help me with this because I was also feeling stressed all the time. And she said, first, get rid of one of your monitors. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do it. Don't make me, you don't understand. But I did it as an experiment, is the same thing. And then she also said the same thing, segment things into different parts of the day and then just do one thing at a time. But I think what you've said is very interesting, that being stressed creates more stress, and that the answer is kind of counterintuitive, which is don't push through and keep going. I mean, certainly there are times when we need to do that, but in fact, take a break, step away, and come back with a fresh mind. I mean, the number of times that people have ideas in the shower or when you're on a walk, it's like, oh yeah, there's that. It's because we've taken a break to let our minds wander in a different way. And that is super important. And of course, we don't want to, I mean, we have this lifestyle because we want the freedom to be able to do the things that we want. And yet we've chained ourselves to our computer, like we've created a different kind of prison. So I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to what you're saying here, and really good tips.
But I think it's really interesting because this whole new environment that what we are creating brings up lots of new questions. And because, we don't have the answers for, we don't have our parents or society tell us like how to respond to those situations, we're just freaking out. So I think it's a really like natural, transition period that what we are going through is we are going from, like an old, like a more industrial age of working style into a new style that we don't exactly know how it's going to look like. So I think that the next 5, 10, or maybe even 20 years, it's going to be a really interesting kind of shift, and finding these new, new methods and new things that we can, for example, teach to our children. So I guess that they growing up, they're not going to be so stuck on their computers because they're going to already learn how to, manage it. But because in our generation, computers, smartphones are relatively new, let's be honest, 10, 15 years ago, we were not walking around with our smartphone. It's a really new thing. So we are still, kind of like hooked on it without actually cultivating those new, ways of responding or managing it, that it becomes, I like to say that I like to see that work actually serves our life and not, other way around. And sometimes that's what I fear, that I'm working just for the sake of working and that's my life. But I would love to, just reduce work to a place that it serves my life, but I have also a life where I'm doing other things.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. I think that's a great point. So let's sort of switch the angle a bit. And we've talked about how to take a break when you feel stressed, but what about your productivity tips? How do you stay on track? And what do you recommend other people do?
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting question, because actually I'm in a state of experimenting with the productivity tips as well. If you asked me 6 months ago or 1 year ago, then I had really probably a lot of different tips and things that I read on the internet, and I thought that it's really, really great. But now I'm actually stepping away from them, and I'm really just looking at results. So instead of looking at the to-dos and I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do, just letting that go and looking at what results I'm looking for and what are the things that I need to get me that result. And then evaluation, that's another big one, is looking at everything that I achieve and looking at from different angles, like what are the aspects that resulted well, what are the things that didn't, and then try to find a little bit try to find that what the cause of that is, and then going, instead of doing more, doing less, and actually doing more quality. So that's another big one that I just started a few months ago to experiment with. This is to, instead of always feeling that we need to do more things and more clients and more campaigns, what if we just take the best one and let everything else go? And it's a really difficult one. With my partner, we just went through a shift in a company that what we are running, a marketing and sales agency. And basically we decided to be shutting down the whole, entity as it was operating until that point, and saying no to clients and saying that actually we don't want to be carrying on with so much work and so many deadlines. And what if we just keep the best client, and we just restructure the whole operational side and everything that we're going to be servicing, that one thing that we actually want to be doing. And then we have the next 6 months to be getting a few or maybe one more to it. But instead of needing to feel that always need to do more, letting that go and just keeping the best one and simplifying it. So that's, we are right in the middle of the experiment, so I can't tell you exactly. Maybe in a year time, if you ask me, then I'm going to have a better insight of how, that actually works. But it feels really good, and it feels really, something that, and you have this saying that sometimes doing less is more. And I think that, simplifying things, doing less, and looking at results, those are the things that I'm the more aligned with, or the more interested in around productivity.
It's true. We can always create more work for ourselves. I mean, the task list is never ending. I keep looking for a time when everything's checked off and then I can finally relax, and it just doesn't happen. So I have to say that strategy is not working. And I really like the idea of doing less is more, and then look at the results.
Exactly.
So we're coming to the end of the time, but I would really like to know about something that I saw called the Freedom Method. You've developed the Freedom Method. What is it?
All right. So the Freedom Method, that's actually I'm still in the process putting together this program, probably going to be launching in November. And it's around looking at our lives in a more holistic way. So when we are talking about location dependence, and most of us, when we are saying that we want to be creating more freedom in our lives, we want to get a remote job, we want to be having our own businesses, then we all, usually most people are focusing on the financial aspect. I can do that when I have this. I can do that when I have that time off. And we always have mainly finances, business, those are really the top ones. And then, but what I like to look at, and in Freedom Method, basically we are using it's a more holistic approach, looking at life in all the different aspects. So we're looking at finance, business, relationship, health, mindset, contribution. So all the different things that actually create wholeness and feeling satisfaction in our lives, and to really start to see and identify that what are the aspects of our life where we are doing great, but what are the aspects that could be also harmonized. Because when we say that we want to do something, so let's say that I want to leave my job, I want to have more freedom, great, but what are the things that may be trapping you? How it's going to affect your relationship? How it's affecting your health? What are the new things you want to be doing? How are you going to be contributing that it gives you a good human satisfaction to your experience? So there's a lot of different aspects that I think that people often maybe not even aware of, and having that, having that, it's basically going to be like a group program where we are running it together in a small group of like 20 people, and people, like, we are learning together, and each person can be reflecting on their lives, not just for where they are now, but where they want to be, and what are the shifts in different areas that they want to be making. So I think it's a more holistic approach to freedom, and it's really useful for people who are, currently like knowing that they want to shift, they want to change, but they are unsure which part of their life they need to make changes, and how to actually go about. So it's about developing awareness around where you are, where you want to go, creating a roadmap for yourself, and having support that can kind of like guide you on the way in the different aspects as you are making changes in your lives.
It sounds like something that's not just for people who want to have more freedom, but for those of us who have it. It's not like you find balance and then you've got it forever. Mm-hmm. I think it seems like it's an ongoing, ever-shifting, different times in your life need different things. And so, you'll probably see me in your program because there's definitely parts of my life that are way off balance. I'm struggling with keeping it on track, because when you love what you do, it's really hard to turn things off, and other parts of your life starts to suffer. And my husband's sitting in the other room, and he's probably cheering right now, going, yeah, I want more attention too. Yeah. So I think that this sounds like a really wonderful program. I could go on forever. I have so many more questions, but we've come to the end of our time. So the last question is, if people want to learn more about you and they want to learn more about the FreedomXFest and to attend, Pyrenees in Spain, where can they find more information?
So we have one main site that what we just launched now, where everything is going to be stored, is freedomexperience.online. And just about the festival is freedomxfest.com.
So Freedom Experience Online?
Yes.
And freedomxfest.com. Okay, I'll put all of that in the show notes. And if they want to get in touch with you specifically?
Yes, they can reach out to either of those channels or on social media. And even if it's not me, but if someone puts Estela, I'm going to be connecting with Estela, then the team's going to put it through to me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you the best of luck with this Freedom X Festival, and I hope it's one of many, because clearly the world is going in this direction, and freedom is something that everybody wants. So you've hit on
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And until next time, everybody, be powerful.